There is a CUP that is required for the properties in one of the zones, the IMUR zone. The second item to let you know is that this is one of the first projects to be proposed under the San Fernando Road zoning, the new San Fernando Road zoning, and also the inclusionary housing. The project will generate approximately $2.7 million for the production of affordable housing units. This number is an estimate based on current square footages. We will confirm those square footages once they go through the building process, the building plan permit process, and Community Development and Housing will then confirm the number. But it's approximately $2.7 million. We've also identified almost $225,000 annually in property tax increment that would flow to the San Fernando Road Corridor Redevelopment Project area. Finally, we have had discussion with the City Council about a parks impact fee. There was a proposal for $2,000 per unit. If that were to be adopted, this project would generate $400,000 in those impact fees. We've noted that for you in the staff report. With that, I'll introduce Bob Cadillac, the Senior Project Manager, to introduce the project and the project team. They'll give you a full design presentation as well as presentation on the environmental review.
The impact fee is not going to be charged if they get their permits in hand.
If they get their permits before you adopt any fee, that is correct.
Right, okay. Mr. Cadillac, your name for the record, please.
Robert Cadillac, Redevelopment Agency. Chairman Giuseppe and members of the agency, we are here today to, as Philip touched on, to certify the environmental impact report with a statement of overrides because of impacts that the project has, and a motion to approve stage 2 design for the project. You originally saw the project at stage 1 in October of 2006, and it was a 6-story project. We have dropped and the architects will talk about this in more detail. They've dropped 1 floor off of it, so it's 5 floors. Parking has not been significantly reduced. The townhome project, which is Parcel B across Elk, remains almost identical with 14 townhomes. They are a little larger than they were at stage 1, so that's interesting. The team today will go through the project. Mr. Lacacciata from Impact Sciences will walk you through the environmental study, and then I'll let the members of the great number of members from the housing team, Alliance Development Group, walk through the project and the changes they proposed. Architecturally and stylistically, it looks almost identical to what it looked like before. If you look at looking southeast down Colorado, at the upper left-hand corner, the glass element just appears to be a little bit shorter than it was in the last picture. So I think we're very happy that the look has been maintained, of the intended look. And with that, I will introduce Mr. Cacciata to answer any questions about environmental or questions of that nature.
Were there any suggestions given at the last agency as far as the design is concerned?
The DRB or the
Agency. And have any of those been incorporated with this new design?
As I recall last time, all those recommendations were incorporated. The tree species and the method of planning were incorporated. Mm-hmm. The color was asked to be looked at, the yellow, which is shown in the, as I recall, on the southeast corner, and the developers have chosen to keep that the same. They have interspersed palms, which you asked them to look at on Colorado, with the Chinese pistachios, which were the selected street trees. So as I recall, those were the major issues you asked them to look at.
So palms have been...
Palms have been introduced because the landscape architect felt it was appropriate
Right.
to the style of the building.
Mr. Starbird.
Bob, the the first stage review, was it 6 stories then?
It was a 6-story project for parcel A, which is a larger parcel.
Right, and now in stage 2, it's a 5-story?
5-story project.
What happened to the number of units and size of units?
The number of units in the first project was 204, including the 14 townhomes, and in this project, it's 186 apartments and 14 townhomes.
So it's,
200.
okay, so 4 lesser units, 4 fewer units.
Correct.
So a number of them must have gotten appreciably smaller.
They did. And,
Stage 1.
And as we did a quick synopsis of the project changes, there are more studios, and the one-bedrooms have gotten smaller in the Stage 2 proposal than they were in the Stage 1. I don't recall any studios in Stage 1. But the townhomes...
Now there's 50-some studios.
Right. But the townhomes, the 14 townhomes, appear to be a bit bigger. I believe in the first proposal they were 1,200 square foot average, and now they are coming in at approximately 1,534. And that's parcel B, which is across Elk.
What is the breakdown of the 200 unit, the 186 unit?
There are 53 studio, 82 one-bedrooms, 82 three-bedrooms. And then there are still the 14...
And what is the average square footage of the 53,
average-
82, and 82?
The average square foot of the studios is 628 square feet. The average size of the one-bedrooms is 793 square feet. The average size of the
Two-bedroom units.
two-bedroom units is 793. The average size of the three-bedroom units is skipped off my page.
Mr. Chairman, the two-bedroom units, average size is 1,200, 1,211, and the townhomes are 1,534.
No, I'm not, what was it? 1294?
1,211.
1211.
In the...
Townhomes are
Two-bedroom.
15. Yeah, townhomes are, there's only 14 of those.
Right.
There are 14,
Right.
correct.
So in the 186, you have 628, 793, and 1211.
Correct.
That's what it is. And compared to the mix before, which had more of the two-bedroom, I think it was mostly
That is-
two-bedroom.
That's correct.
All right. So they've changed the mix a little bit. About 792 square feet for two bedrooms. That's an awful small
It's a small
two-bedroom.
two-bedroom.
I built those 800 square foot two bedrooms in 1980s. That's a one-bedroom? That's a one-bedroom. So you basically have a one-bedroom and two-bedroom. You don't have a three-bedroom.
Studios 1 and 2.
One and twos. Okay, so that's not a three-bedroom, it's a two. Okay. Sounds a little bit better. Okay. All right, is that it?
Yes, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Any questions? Okay.
I do have a question. Are we going to be paving that turn into Elk? That road's in pretty bad shape. I mean, as part of the overall improvement, I'm sure there'll have to be new curbs and gutters.
The off-ramp curve off the, I'm sure the street improvement plan developed by Public Works will include that the developer will have to pay that and improve it wherever his property is to the center line. So at that point where they meet,
Yeah.
he'll have to prove it 100%.
I was under the impression that was Caltrans property. Did somebody...
Caltrans, my
Last time we talked about putting more trees there, and we were told that that's Caltrans properties. They have to get permission.
Caltrans is the ramp.
Mr. Chairman, perhaps I'm looking at the developer. They can address that in their comments,
It's outside the colored area on the slope.
correct.
or if you'd like the answer now, they can give you the answer.
No, I mean, it just makes sense, once this project comes in, that both Elk and the turn into Elk be nice and paved and will match the rest of the neighborhood, especially since I'm sure we are going to be doing new curves and gutters.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
prior to
taking testimony from the public or from the developer, we should open the public hearing. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Kasakian, could you please read the first name on the public hearing?
First name is Emil Tatavosian.
Your name for the record, please.
Emil Tatavosian, Urban Concepts, here with the residential team. Mr. Chair, members of the board, thanks for this opportunity to present the Stage 2 of our design for your consideration. As Mr. Lanzafim indicated, we were last before you in October of 2006, at which time you unanimously approved the Stage 1 design. Since then, the design team has worked diligently to address all the comments that we received, all the valuable comments that we received from the agency board, as well as the design review board. The design team has continued to push the envelope and create a very extraordinary architecture that will set a positive tone for the future of Elk Street and Colorado. In terms of Mr. Quintero's question, there are street improvements, Mr. Chair and members of the board, contemplated or required both for Elk Street and Colorado, street widening as well as dedications, and we can provide further detail on those specifics in a moment. In our discussions with our principal urban designer and the design review board, there was a sentiment that only a handful of sites in Glendale are appropriate for truly modern architecture, and they both agreed that this site is perhaps one of those that is most appropriate, given that it's a transitional site and one that bridges from commercial, well-developed commercial into well-established, dense residential neighborhoods. The DRB approved the Stage 2 in February unanimously again, and we hope that you will find a design to your liking and move to approve so that we can move forward. As Mr. Lanzafim indicated, there was a project EIR prepared for the project. Mr. Tony Locacciato will address the findings in a moment. Just a point of clarification, if I may, the staff report inadvertently left out the application, the IHP application for the for the Elk parcel, forgive me. Including the Elk parcel IHP fees, the total comes out to over $3 million, just for the record. With that, I'd like to conclude my portion of the comments and turn it over to the developer, unless you have specific questions that I need to address now.
Any questions from Mr. Natowicz? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Next is Andrew Colquitt.
Name for the record, please.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Andrew Colquitt. I'm with Alliance Residential, and I reside at 2040 Main Street, Suite 235, Irvine, California, 92614. I represent Alliance Residential Company. We're the fourth largest fully integrated multifamily mixed-use developer in the country. We take a lot of pride in developing and redeveloping award-winning urban mixed-use communities, utilizing contextual, locally based, community-focused approach in the creation of superior neighborhood-enhancing additions to the communities we develop within. Our redevelopments and new communities incorporate distinctive and innovative, memorable designs while maintaining classic and timeless character and charm. Alliance is, shall we say, very choosy about the urban locations we target for our new communities and our efforts. We focus on cities with vision, cities where charm and livability are encouraged and protected, and where constant improvement is the goal. Alliance is excited to be working within Glendale on the redevelopment of a tired, nearing functional obsolescence section of one of its most important urban arterials. We believe ISIS, our proposed mixed-use neighborhood, will become a contemporary new 21st century gateway into the urban center of Glendale's financial and retail core. ISIS will provide much-needed urban housing within easy walking and bicycling distance to downtown Glendale's jobs and new and existing retail. As well, ISIS will provide various neighborhood-supporting retail for our immediate neighborhood. We hope and believe ISIS will become the catalyst for a charming Main Street environment along West Colorado Street, which currently does not exist, yet which has been envisioned by the recently or not too long ago implemented redevelopment overlay in this area. Over the last year and a half, we have worked with city staff and members of the community to learn about historic Glendale, as well as the vision for its future. We are incredibly excited to be a part of that future and what is likely to be a wonderful renaissance of Glendale's urban environs. Alliance and our development teammates are proud to be working in Glendale, as I've said. We have enjoyed the last year and a half of the working sessions and hearings. We actually may have set the new record for Alliance for public hearings on one project at 5. As Emil indicated, we have received unanimous support to date in our hearings leading up to today, likely due to the strong relationships that have been formed along the way and the open-minded approach to designing the new community, which I believe all parties have exhibited. Particularly, Philip Blancafame and his team has led us, coached us, taught us, and at times sassed us and spanked us a little bit to get us to the goal line. Thank you, Philip. You guys would probably like me to stop rambling now so you can talk to the real talent, our design team. I do need to emphasize that we are nearing the end of our time under our land contract, where we must have all of our discretionary approvals in order to close. I just want to sincerely thank you guys, the redevelopment agency, for hearing our case for the second time, as well as the extremely competent and hardworking Glendale City staff who have guided us through this complicated process, but have led us to what we believe will be an excellent redevelopment of the Western Gateway into Glendale's urban core. We feel lucky to be here. I'll be around if anybody has any questions. I'm sure you will. Maybe to clarify a few things I noticed in the first few questions. In regards to our unit mix, in the original Stage 1 drawings, we were, early in the design process, we basically were split 50-50 between one-bedroom and two-bedroom units. In the Stage 1 documents, we had 103 one-bedroom units and 101 two-bedroom units. Knowing that we were really probably, at that point in time, 3 to 4 years from opening, we kept what is basically just a conservative mix. The average size of our one-bedrooms at that time was 812 square feet. The average size of our two-bedrooms at that time was 1,233 square feet. Today, the mix in front of you is a more refined mix based on detailed market analysis in basically the downtown and around downtown urban area. We now have added studios and townhomes to the mix. We have 53 studios at 628 square feet. That's a deluxe studio that has a separate sleeping nook, a full-size kitchen, walk-in closets, and washers and dryers. This is an urban unit for young professionals just starting their careers. We have 82 one-bedroom units, which are averaging 793 square feet. So originally 812, now 793. Small change in size. Once again, these units, I think, all, or if not all, absolutely the majority of those units, walk-in closets, full-size kitchens, hardwood-style floors, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, full-size washer and dryers in every unit. These are deluxe luxury units. We have 51 two-bedroom units, which are averaging 1,211 square feet, and we've added 14 townhomes with 1,534 square feet. So all in all, I believe our in-lieu fees are up because our square footages are actually, more refined, but a little bit up from what we were estimating initially. So I hope that clears up at least some of the questions in regards to mix.
Just out of curiosity, what are your projected rents when you open?
Sure. Projected rents at the low end of the range. You know what? I can give you more detail if I can get a calculator and come back in a minute and answer that question.
Just roughly your square foot
Sure.
rents?
On a square footage basis, probably anywhere from $1.90 per square foot at the low end up to $2.60 a square foot at the high end for penthouse units, maybe $2.70 a square foot even. We haven't been able to define the penthouse market for rental for new projects in Glendale yet because there aren't any new ones in a while. So it'd be in that range.
But you are building this to condo standards and you're papering them, correct?
We are building this project absolutely to condo quality, which is an important question that you've asked us before. And we want to talk to you about applying for a map for the project, absolutely.
A tentative map?
Yes.
You could do a tentative map now, and after you build it, depending on what the environment is, then you can always turn that and get
What we wanted to talk to you about, if this came up today, was the map in Glendale. My understanding is it's a 3-year map. I have about 8 months from approval at this point to starting construction, then 2 years to build the project after that. So doing a map today doesn't necessarily serve the purpose that you want. Some cities have 5-year and 10-year maps. Some cities have 1-year maps, in which case we wait. You guys are kind of in between with the 3-year map. So we are willing to commit to apply for MAP. I'd like to somehow figure out how to do that during construction so it has some value.
Well, you need to talk to our attorney. She knows, she'll help you. We trust her.
Sure.
More than happy to.
Thanks.
And by the way, if there was any spanking that went on, we had no idea. So, I'm saying that right now, so it's between you and
Why don't you
Phil.
bring
I don't want
that
to know about it.
Phil's blushing.
Mr. Quintero.
And you'll be possibly pulling the map for both sites, right?
Yes, absolutely. That would be the goal.
Thank you. What's next? Who's next?
I think next, well, actually, he knows what's next, but it's our architect.
Before you sit down, just to
Before
clarify, the townhomes will be built as condominiums? I mean, do you plan on actually selling those and doing a map on those, or?
We plan on doing 2 separate maps on the 2 sides of the street, so either one could go forward before the other. The townhome side of the street is smaller. It could move much faster, but it's market-based as far as when they go condo.
You are planning on those being condominiums?
We've actually designed the project so we can begin immediately with construction as all rental.
Oh, I see, okay.
That being said, we want to put a map on both, and when the market is there for condos,
Okay.
consider selling condos at that point in time, of course.
Thank you. Next, please.
Next speaker is Aram Shahbazian.
The architect.
Thank you. My name is Aram Shahbazian. Address is 600 Wilshire, downtown Los Angeles. I thought I would just take a brief moment and explain to you a little bit about what we've done with the building since you last saw it at Phase 1. There have been a few subtle changes, one significant change in the height, which you already have heard about. That came about more or less from an analysis from a technical standpoint, with after talking to building and safety and fire, construction analysis in-house between us and Alliance, to determine that the Type 3 construction that was proposed originally was something that could have posed some cost constraints that we need to go back and reconsider. With that said, at the same time, maintaining continuity with the original design insofar as the aesthetic quality that we were striving for was an important factor for us, as well as I would imagine for you, insofar as creating that gateway building, not losing the quality that we proposed in Stage 1 with respect to the overall character and architectural aesthetic of the building. We were able to maintain relatively consistent numbers of units. As you've already heard, the mix changed in that process, but what we really did strive for more than anything else is to maintain quality of the overall architectural aesthetic quality of the building and the general layout. We did not change the building footprint insofar as the open nature of the courtyard. And the height of the building still steps, much as it did before. A couple of the elements that did come up in our Stage 1 review with yourselves, as well as with Design Review Board, were, number one was the suggestion that we go back and look at the retail level at the street and see if there's an opportunity to engage some sort of a retail plaza at the street level. We have done that and incorporated a plaza at the street. It shows up on this drawing as a break in the facade.
Show that. Thank you. In plan view, it shows up as this break. This is a roof plan view. This plan actually shows the street level a little bit more accurately in that we have an opening in the building. The dark brown portion here is actually open to the sky. There's a bridge portion here, which is the architecture above, but then it creates the connectivity from the parking garage for the retail users back to the street, while also incorporating a plaza element that can be activated with chairs, tables, umbrellas, really create an active street element that interacts again back with Colorado Street. That really was a direct response to one of the comments that we received actually at Design Review Board. I think it came up in this venue as well. We thought it was a very good idea. It's something we should have actually considered initially. It really is a benefit to the building and, more importantly, to the neighborhood.
We still have our residential lobby element that ties to the street here, further activating the street element. We have a public recreation amenity for the neighborhood, the residential community of this particular building. This is envisioned to be a fitness center that would help activate the street again, so get more activity down on the street. Furthermore, one other suggestion that came about in our... I'm sorry.
Before you put that down.
Go ahead.
There are some, where the roadway is.
The circle ramp.
The circle
This one?
roadway.
This one?
There is that slice there. There was some talk about seeing what you could do with that. If
This
there
is
was
a-
a possibility. of
You are
that.
correct, it's Caltrans.
It is.
Have we had any discussions with Caltrans?
I think some discussions have been tried to be had, but Drew?
Somebody's talked. Just wondering, because it'd sure be nice to do it all at one time.
We agree.
Let me run that for a second.
It'd help you, too.
Our landscape architect has, on multiple projects, worked with Caltrans to get permission to landscape their area. It is absolutely our intent to work with Caltrans to up the landscaping in this entire area, which they own and control, but they have worked very well with our landscape architect, Melendrez, on other projects, and he assures us that we're going to be able to really amp up the landscaping.
Oh, it is a gateway,
Works.
as you said.
And what was their response?
On other projects,
No, on this one, since you have talked.
they won't talk to us until we have an approved project.
Okay, and is the roadway also part of Caltrans?
The roadway is part of Caltrans, yes, sir.
Okay, so you also have to get approval from them?
We're not doing anything.
Well, no, because Mr. Quintero was asking if there was a way to fix that, and I wanted to know if...
Fix it?
Well, he was saying that was kind of beat up, right? Is that what you were talking about?
My question is, and I don't mean to put it on the developer, just in general, my question is, since we're going to be doing this amount of work, and especially on Elk, what is the condition of the pavement on Elk? If I remember correctly, last time I drove through there, it's not particularly good.
We are doing widening on both sides of the street as part of our development, and we will have to kind of resurface the Elk Street area in front of our project. The circle, if that's what you're talking about, that is Caltrans. This is you guys, and we have conditions that we have to meet as far as cleaning up and doing the right thing on Elk, as well as some widening on Colorado.
I guess Mr. Quintero's asking on the circle ramp, is Caltrans going to research?
I certainly think it's worth, I'll have to drive by again to see what the conditions like, but it's certainly worth talking to them about doing, and it only makes sense. It's a gateway to this project. Might as well be nice and smooth so that it all looks new and the entire area is. So I would recommend, in addition to the landscape, we talked to Caltrans about the condition of the surface and whether you can go ahead and make that a nice smooth. I mean, it becomes the entrance way to both projects, so...
Maybe that's where our traffic and
Bumpy.
transportation department has to get involved, talking about the street itself.
Yeah, I think we will work with your in-house staff as well as Caltrans to do what's necessary. We will be doing work over here, so your point is absolutely correct that it makes sense.
You're talking two different departments of Caltrans.
Right. I'm hesitant to make promises in regards to Caltrans based on some past experiences. Some things that were obviously logical didn't work out the way we thought they would. Nevertheless, it is in our best interest to make this wonderful gateway elevation beautiful from street to rooftop.
Well, Caltrans is loaded, so they'll be happy to resurface that.
Right.
Thank you. Continue.
Thank you. One other suggestion that came about from our Stage 1 presentation was in the areas where we're stepping the buildings, that we try to incorporate some kind of a roof deck. We have taken the opportunity on the westernmost finger of the building. This is at the what is essentially the fourth floor from grade, third floor above the podium deck, to incorporate a roof deck element that has vistas and views out towards the west, as well as activating and helping to kind of reinforce the active courtyard below. So we took that one to heart as well. We incorporated a small roof deck as part of this. We're limited on these roof decks as to exiting, so we're relatively limited on how big they can be. This one happened to be an opportunity where it made some sense.
Would you explain that again? The roof deck is that little
This piece
area?
This piece right here is 3 stories above the courtyard. 1 story below the other roof element. This is an area where we step the building down.
Oh, down. But the regular roof, you can't use that at all.
No, we can't go up on the regular roof. It creates it creates occupancy on the roof. I'm sorry?
Structural problems?
It's more, no, it's actually more exiting and occupancy issues. It creates another story to the building, and it then would throw us back into the type 3 construction type. So,
Okay.
but when we have a step down, it's an opportunity to where it doesn't pose that problem. We just have to provide exiting for that space, and that's where the 750-foot limit.
Seems like it'd be an ideal place to use solar panels. You're going to have an unobstructed view of the sun 365 days a year. But that's another issue,
It's
too.
another issue. Those are the main elements. The 14-unit townhome building really has not changed fundamentally. It's the same building we showed you at stage 1.
What are you doing with your, while you're on the roof, what are you doing with the equipment? Where are they sitting? Where is your air conditioning unit sitting?
There's a roof plan in your submittal, but rooftop equipment really consists of condensing units for the air conditioners within each unit. They are lined up over the corridors, which in this case is the middle of what you see here.
Okay.
In this line, and then down the middle of each finger, pulled away from the parapet edges.
So you don't see it?
No.
And your elevator shaft?
The elevator shafts are, again, that shows up on your roof plan. For some reason on the graphic it didn't show up here. We have an elevator located here, we have an elevator located here, and another one located here. Those are towers, stair towers pop up in tower elements as well.
Yeah, why don't you show us the next picture where they are?
Well, these elevations, there's one that pops up over the parapet line here.
Okay.
They don't show up here as well as perhaps on an orthogonal elevation or
And that's a full height?
in section. Elevator runs are actually not quite full height. Elevator runs are an abbreviated overrun. We usually need about 14 feet from the floor below to the clear height inside the elevator shaft. Stairs, the ones that are servicing the roof as far as fire access are concerned, have two ways of doing it. One is a full height tower that goes up.
Talk to the fire about that?
Not in detail. In concept, we have to provide fire access to the roof. It's usually one stair, but in talking through with them, when the first time we talked to them, it was with respect to a Type 3 building, and there were other issues that we were dealing with more than stair access to the roof. When we showed them in concept our stair access and approach to how to get to the roof, they were fine with that, with a Type 3 building. We're in a Type 5 now. It actually is less restrictive, if you will. But when stairs do go to the roof, there are two ways of doing it. Either the penthouse that goes up and covers the stair, or you create a well with the last flight of stairs kind of exposed to the elements. We prefer to create the penthouse. In this case, it actually becomes an architectural element with respect to the elevation.
And that's what I saw. The architectural element was not as high, and I tend to think you may have to increase that height, because my experience has been based on the builders who come to me complaining later that, oh, gee, they want to go all the way above, and I just want to let you know that may happen. And if
That's
it
a
does,
possibility.
then it just becomes a higher architectural element you have to deal with.
That's a possibility, and we're aware and there are ways to mitigate that and ways to deal with it as a well, as opposed to...
So when that happens, don't call me.
I'll refrain.
Told you already. So you know. You know in advance. Okay. What else has changed?
Actually, not much else has really changed. The materials are very similar to what we presented to you, actually the same. We have a combination of vertical and horizontal metal siding on...
Do you have a material sample?
We submitted those. I'm not sure if they're all back here.
Please send us forward, please.
Perhaps we just do these together. We have combinations of vertical and horizontal metal siding. The vertical metal siding is used primarily along Colorado on the townhome elements. It's the dark gray elements you see between the white fins here. The horizontal metal siding shows up on the corner elements. You can see a little bit of that in the edge piece here, but primarily the corner tower pieces are horizontal metal siding. On the small building on Elk, we use a metal shingle configuration, which is just a different application, but they're metal shingles, if you will, so it gets a different texture pattern. Aluminum windows. These are all the same materials. Actually, we showed you. They're down at the grade level. We have
What kind of windows are you using? What brand are you using?
We've been investigating that. There are several manufacturers that we're looking at between. Well, Milgard is one that's a pretty standard. There's one in Torrent. It's called Torrance Aluminum, I believe, is the name of the manufacturer. But the final decision on that has not really been made yet.
Because some of these things are colored material and colored windows. I saw a sample. And if you're going to use those, I prefer that they are powder coated.
Yes, on that would.
Longer. I don't want any extruded aluminum. After they get weathered, they get dark, and after a few rains, you have that black lines running down on the corners.
Okay, we'll certainly consider that. The colored elements that you have seen perhaps might be storefront type elements.
Right, there's some storefronts also.
Which are definitely powder coated or kind or finished.
Right. On the aluminums, I mean, I've used them in my business as a contractor, and I know there's a lot of, you're not using any vinyl?
Our preference is aluminum.
Okay, if you're going to use aluminum, then it can't be just anodized. I need to have something better than that. Anodized is
a protective
technology.
protective coating.
Yeah.
Yes.
See a second. Just for my part, I'm satisfied with the materials that you're using. You should know your business, and you're not going to put something in that's going to be defective, deficient, or cause high maintenance.
True.
So that's for my part.
Look at all this.
I know. I
All
can
these
see it.
windows, they're not going to be just aluminum. They're going to have paint on them.
I can see it, and I already made my point. I'm satisfied with the architect knowing what he's doing.
There are on the town. Is that the small townhome building?
Yeah.
There are steel frames around what you may be seeing are actually steel
I see.
elements
The
on the
steel
on the
elements around the
patios out
thing?
in front of the
Okay.
windows. There are several awning elements that are steel. There's a rich palette of materials all over on both sides of the building.
Okay. And your glass that goes all the way,
That is going to be
element has also changed because it didn't.
It has. Actually, technically, it hasn't changed in concept. What we showed you at stage one had stopped short of the parapet. We showed you an addendum at that time, which was a handheld thing that we had done, which took it up above to the top of the parapet. We're holding on to that, finishing it to the parapet line. We think it's an important element to the architecture for that one area. That is a window wall system. It's a window wall or storefront. Again, the detailing of which is something that needs to be investigated in detail.
Can you explain to me the reason for this section?
Can't see exactly what you're...
This is the window coming out, and there's a little section that...
Comes back over the top.
Right.
Actually, what I think you might be seeing is an orthogonal view. There's an element that might be projecting out in front and over the top. Try to show it to you in plan. It doesn't show in those plans very well. I believe what you're seeing there is an overlapping of planes.
Oh, okay.
Where the plane behind goes, the glass plane actually goes.
So the glass plane is
behind.
straight up.
The glass goes straight up.
It doesn't jog over.
No, and then the green wall is out and projected in front.
Okay. Okay. And what else?
Those are the elements that have different. Anything that is really modified from the scheme that we showed you. We tried to hold true to what we showed you the first time. We felt it was very important that we
And
hold.
then you have other areas that are the colored gray and the white. Are they stucco material?
Yes, primarily the colored gray. If you, there are some grays you may be looking at along Colorado. The base element you can see depicted right in the corner here.
Right, those are ceramic.
Those are the ceramic or porcelain tiles.
But
yes.
what I'm seeing out there, the top part. I see. What is that white? What is that?
The white is plaster.
Plaster.
This gray element is steel.
And the rest, the green?
The green is a cementitious board. You can see the sample of it on that board.
Okay. And the gray, that is further?
The gray down here on the town?
Galleria, yes.
That's vertical metal siding in this particular case.
Okay. And so on the insides, anywhere you have stucco, how do you apply the stucco? You're just doing it like regular, putting paper?
It, in all likelihood, would be a three-coat plaster system.
Okay, you're not using any of those boards?
No.
Okay. All right, and how are you dealing with the copings on top?
Metal coping over the top of parapets.
you're making sure that, this is the problem
These
that
all-
I have with some of these.
We were very, there's a detail in your book, all of
You give it
our, we
enough
can't
pitch?
everything back onto the roof to make sure we don't get drips over
And
the
the edge is
edge.
done properly, so
Correct.
you don't, okay. All right. All right.
This chip is part of the metal siding that you're talking about, or is it representative of the,
Yeah, we were trying to depict a real metal, because we had everything represented in pictures otherwise.
for the siding?
For the siding.
For the siding.
For the siding and for windows and those metal elements. There are also colored awnings that would be more of the richer reds you can see depicted in the retail element there.
Okay, anything else?
No, unless you have any questions.
I think I asked all the questions there was, and everybody asked. Thank you. Who's next?
Thank you.
Next speaker is Dwayne Border.
Good afternoon, Dwayne Border with Melendrez Landscape Architects, 617 South Olive. Wanted to take you through a few adjustments that we've made based upon comments we received from this audience as well as the DRB since our last presentation here. Really, in essence, the overall character and quality of the landscape and the landscaped areas have stayed the same. We have made some adjustments, as were discussed previously, in that we've brought back, let's see, let's start with the street level. We've brought back the layer of palm trees, which resonates so well on the other end of Colorado. We wanted to make that connection from one side to the other. So we have brought that back. What we've done is actually use those elements as framing opportunities for the main lobby, the residential arrival lobby, as well as the retail plaza that we have here in the mid-block, which again, we've responded to the comments that were made about having a larger area where we actually have some seating and we'll have planters and those types of things in it, so it's more than just kind of a barren open space. It's actually going to be an outdoor living space for the retailers, perhaps cafes and things that are there to service them. So it will be embellished.
Could I ask a question? You happen to know the square footage of that outdoor? Trying to visualize it from looking at the whole thing. I mean, is it 10 by 10?
Based on the plan, it's about 40 by 40.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty good
1600.
size. Yeah, it's pretty substantial for some. So we can get some bistro tables and things out there and still have movement through. So it is going to be, again, sort of an engaging space. We've framed the entries with the palm trees. We responded on this end in kind, basically, so there's a balance along Colorado Street and the rhythm, and the canopy trees and the palm trees sort of have a really strong presence as they march down. We've also introduced large pottery along the curbside that could be used, since it is such a narrow right-of-way. We know that there's going to be an issue with traffic, and even if there are parked cars here, people feel a little bit safer with another layer of material there. And since it is so tight, we can't get substantial planting in terms of large contiguous areas. We're using pottery as safety issues, as well as kind of framing the promenade, one side having the retail, the other side having the trees and the pots. And then as we go along the backside, elk has stayed the same in terms of the quality. Again, it's more of a residential scale quality with the landscape. Street trees here in large, oversized cutout planters mixed in with enhanced band paving, so that when you do have visitors coming in and they're parking on Elk, they don't have to traipse across lawn and those types of things, kind of a continuous parkway. It's broken up a bit so that it's ease of access to the townhome units, as well as having embellished setbacks with landscape and plantings that'll provide a sense of address for those units as well. In the all-important Caltrans area, we did get the comments from the DRB, which we agree with, and also what we've gotten here. We've worked quite a bit with Caltrans in the past on other projects. We've got a good working relationship with them, so we're going to go with them through the process on this project and make sure that it's all one cohesive piece, because I think just as you feel, the development team and us as designers don't feel like there should be a line sort of in the sand, and then all of a sudden there's, kind of what they're doing and what we're doing. We want this to feel as if it's one large project, so we will definitely work with
Is
that.
there a walkway the whole way around the north, the west, and the south side?
Yes.
I thought I saw brown ice, so you can walk.
Right. So that you can walk through without going through the parking and those types of things. You can make it from Elk Street around through to here. So we have
workout room
incorporated
or whatever, you could do that.
that. Right.
Hot, sweaty, you can go around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's the street level. The Elk Avenue, again, the property here on the townhome units have stayed the same in the level of quality. We do want to mix in with the foothills and apply some mix of evergreen and deciduous trees around here, so it feels kind of nestled and more akin to what's happening with the residential development here, and also screens from some of the light industrial that's happening around it. As we go up to the upper level,
Before you go there.
Sure.
Could you show me where your pots are in that brown section on Colorado? That
Right.
is the sidewalk, correct?
yes, this brown section along Colorado, the different shades are showing two different tones of hardscape, obviously,
Okay.
concrete.
And what
so
are you going to use there?
For hardscape materials, integral color concrete.
Okay, and you're going to stamp them.
It's going to be scored and sandblasted, most
Okay,
likely.
and now on the edges is where you talked about putting pots
Right,
on the curb itself.
right, on the curb side.
Have you checked with the street department? Is that something we allow?
We will go,
You'll have to, because sometimes when cars open, and also how you drain them.
Right. I don't know if that's going to be doable. I think putting the trees are going to be okay, but I've never seen having pots right at the curb, because
Okay.
the city probably say that's their right. Where is your right-of-way end? Right where the white stuff is, right?
essentially right inside the curb. So it's from there in, yeah.
Okay. That's
But-
city right-of-way.
But we'll definitely
You're
work with them.
dedicating that.
Yeah,
as part of the sidewalk.
we've done it before on previous projects, and so the frequency, maybe we can work with them on that. But we're just again trying to add another layer of landscape and a layer of safety. Actually, is kind of
And the
biggest
palm trees that you have out there, I'm assuming that you will try to match the
Yes.
type of palm trees that is in the rest of Colorado. On Colorado also, they are lighting up the palm trees. Do you intend to do the same thing?
concern. Yes, we do.
Yeah, I see a head going up and down. Good. Okay. That'll look very attractive.
I think it's a good idea to try to do the concrete planters that you're talking about. I think that
Yeah.
make more of an enclosure. I mean, this is, as you well know, an incredibly busy street. So then in terms of the palm trees, I would go for whatever you do you have any palm tree, any particular species in mind, or?
What we've been using most now is the Folifera, which is more of the native fan palm. But I definitely want to work with street department.
Yeah, I mean, I would go, never mind what else is on Colorado, I would just go with whatever you think is a beautiful
I'm
tree.
trying to remember
that's
what the mix is. We know the Folifera does very well. It's much more water conserving. It's, again, sort of a native Southern California plant material. It has a large, sturdy trunk, so again, it looks good up against the curb face.
But if it's okay with the Public Works, I think the planters are a good idea.
Okay. Is that all for the street level at this point? We can move on? Okay.
Can I ask, I'm trying to recall, do we have a parking lane on there? We do, okay.
What we're looking
And
at
that was my concern. If there's a parking, if you have a car parked there, how do you open that door?
Agreed.
You're going to be hitting that.
So I just,
Those
Depends on
pots.
where
I
they
was trying to recall if we were widening
Unless if
it
it's a
to add
no
a traffic
parking
lane.
for a while, then I can
Right.
see. If there's no parking, then yeah, it makes sense.
matter.
Total sense.
Yeah. We'll look at that when we get into more detail and find the right balance and quantities along that street edge. When we look at the upper areas, there's no substantial changes in terms of kind of the attitude and the character again. We're really excited about the fact that we have southern exposure, wide open expression to the native landscape as well as the sun and all the great qualities that the site provides. With the low-level residential here, you don't have a lot of other larger buildings sort of interfering with it. So there's a real opportunity to borrow from the landscape beyond. So in terms of an organization and layout, we're still looking at the main circulation core happens within the building, and then as we come out to each one of these, we wanted to create a different experience for the different courtyards. We have two courtyards, both of substantial size. We're actually also excited about the fact that it is pretty good size. A lot of times we get stuck with 35, 40-foot wide courtyards, and they become quite a challenge. The orientation of the building works perfectly with some of the things that we want to do, which is creating a variety of experiences experiences when you're in these. The easternmost, or the central courtyard, we're calling a passive courtyard. It's more of a garden court, and it's more intense in terms of landscape. We've got a lot of landscape elements in pots. We're trying to apply as much turf as possible, and layers, again, of landscape, shrubs and ground covers and things to really create this lush, verdant landscape expression in the center here. And having subspaces where as you enter in, there's small water features that, again, soften the noise that could be happening from surrounding traffic areas. So as soon as you walk in, you get this feeling, this attitude that you're in a different environment. You're going to experience something completely different than what this urban core along Colorado really is for the city of Glendale. So as you move through, we have a variety of seating opportunities, more informal seating of groups of 2 or 3 folks, and then when you get down to the southernmost point, we're looking at having an architectural expression that could be something akin to cabanas, like you would see on a boutique hotel, where they could have covering. It steps up a little bit, some larger furnishings in there, and it's overlooking a dining court, which we're going to have barbecues. We're looking at having an outdoor hearth or fire element, some kind of gathering kind of anchor at that end. So that especially in the evenings when we see a lot of these court spaces being used, really having a draw and a quality to it that's going to bring people out of those units and here and really create that sense of community. As we look in the more active court here to the west, we're calling it active essentially because obviously there's the pool, there's the amenity area, there's also the rooftop deck that Aram had mentioned that's associated with this as well. This is more of again, sort of vibrancy. There's more hardscape here. There's a little bit more geometry to the space, so it creates a bit more of kind of tension, I would say, against some of the natural landscape elements that we're proposing in here, like bamboo groves and drifts of native, or not native, but carex and sedge and those types of things, used in very architectural ways that are very kinetic landscapes. You know, things that when the wind comes in and the breezes come by, there's actually movement. So it kind of creates a senses, garden for the senses, essentially. And we're looking at, again, a small pool with some sunning areas around it, some areas for smaller water features, and bamboo screens and vegetated screens to, again, mitigate some of the noise and some of the visual problems that you may have here with this turnoff. Given the radius of this, let's say they should be going slower, so we're hoping that it doesn't feel like it's a very kind of quick sort of drag kind of area. So hopefully with the turn of this, there won't be much noise problems, but we are putting a layer at the upper level, and then based upon comments from the DRB, again, there's going to be something at the lower level, and then working with Caltrans out here, hopefully we can get enough 3 or 4 layers of landscape at different planes and different elevations to where it's really going to mitigate into the noise that would be happening here.
How high is the wall going to be at that point, at the pool level? No.
At the pool level?
Is it 10, 8 feet, 10?
The parapet wall itself just has to be 42 inches. So we're looking at a 42-inch parapet and then probably having at least 10, 12 feet maybe of bamboo. So it's going to be more of a green wall than it is really a solid wall.
No, but what he's asking is what the height of the wall is from the street level.
From the street level.
I can probably clarify that. The podium, which we call a podium, is a courtyard elevation, is approximately 12 feet above street level, roughly. It varies a little depending on grade.
Okay, and then above that?
Then no, where Dwayne is talking about is essentially on that podium deck. That's where the courtyard, so it's about 12 feet above street.
Yeah, 12 feet plus another 42 inches.
The 42 inches would then be
42 inches.
42 inches above that. So,
What species of bamboo do you have in mind? Have you decided yet?
We haven't decided yet. You know, we've used black bamboo, we've used oldamai, we've used any number, golden goddess. I mean,
I'm surprised it's only going to be 42 inches high, because I do think their sound will be an issue.
No. What's happening here, and you can kind of see it here, is this is Elk Street, and then you've got that wall, and then there's going to be a 42-inch parapet, and then on top of that is where the bamboo is going to be going. Yeah. So the bamboo is certainly going to be over 42 inches. It's going to be 10 or 12 feet.
So you're up, 12 feet, then 42, then the bamboo on top of that?
Yeah.
So you're way up there.
So this wall is essentially, to the top of parapet about 15 feet.
15, and then 42.
Then on top of that another 10 feet or so.
25 feet or so. think that's high enough up
I would hope.
for sound attenuation.
Yeah, yeah.
We just need that really smooth. That's what I was thinking in terms of that turn. It'd be nice and
People
smooth.
don't race off
so
that
there's no-
curve anyhow. At a curve.
Rubberized asphalt, yeah.
Haven't heard of any accidents here.
And I think that's it in terms of the large moves for landscape. Again, you were very generous in your comments. Were gracious to our design, so we haven't made a lot of substantial adjustments. And other than the issue along that the Caltrans property, I think we've explained everything fairly well, except for one of the questions was kind of level and quality of material you can really get on a podium structure or on a roof deck. And so what we wanted to do was put together some different images from the development side, Alliance side, the architect side, and then from our side in terms of landscape design. And previous projects that we've all been involved in that have had this same level of quality, character, and basically conditions and restrictions in terms of construction on rooftops and on podiums. And Melindres, we've done a number of podium projects, some such as in Santa Monica, which is over a parking deck, and then some in Hollywood at Sunset and Vine that are over retail restaurant areas. And so we really try to humanize those spaces through combinations of drop planters where it's appropriate, and we can accommodate a little bit more depth in the structure, to combinations of planters and site elements and furnishings and things that really kind of warm the space up a little bit and again humanize it and become outdoor living experiences. And these are some of the things that we've played with on a number of these other projects. Water features, site furnishings is very important, and we start to look at the pool area, understanding the conflicts and things that arise between all the different development groups or consultant groups when this stuff happens. We've been through it. TCA's been through it, so we all feel very confident that we're going to be able to get a high-quality project, even though it does have restrictions in terms of construction on top of a podium. We've sort of all been through and made our mistakes already, so this time we've been able to kind of have success rate that we're bringing to this project that we feel very confident about.
Any questions?
Yep.
Thank you. Next, please.
Next speaker is Tony Locacciato.
Your name for the record, please.
I'm Tony Locacciato, Managing Principal of Impact Sciences. We're located at 234 East Colorado in Pasadena. I know both staff and the applicant's project team wanted you to have the exciting part of the presentation prior to the summary of the environmental impact report I'm going to give you today. The final EIR you have in front of you consists of two volumes. The larger volume, about half of which is the draft EIR, the rest is technical studies, which include a historic resources evaluation of the older buildings on the north side, a geology and soils report, Phase 1 environmental site assessment of the site conditions for these existing industrial uses, water and sewer system capacity analysis, traffic study, and then air quality emission and roadway noise modeling. It's the second half of this volume. This smaller volume is the final EIR. Just wanted to briefly give you an overview of the findings of the EIR. Less than significant impacts. That was the conclusion and determination for the land use and planning section of the EIR. It's consistent, does not conflict with any applicable land use plans. With regard to housing, there's no housing on the site. It won't directly impact any. Aesthetics and visual resources. This project won't impact any long-range views, affect the visual character of the site or the area, and won't result in the creation of any new sources of substantial light or glare. Geology and soils.
It won't affect any what? What view? Long-range view?
Any scenic long-range views, right?
What does that mean?
Under CEQA, one of the aspects of you have to look at is whether there's any long-range scenic views you would be obstructing with new development. So if you had long-range views of the mountains, for instance, something that considers a scenic panorama or element, you would be putting up something that might obstruct that view.
Okay. And this is not doing that?
No.
Okay.
Only views are available, right down the east-west streets and when you replace what's there, a parking lot and the industrial uses with these. You won't be obstructing any long-range scenic views that are identified in the city's
So
general plan.
houses across the street have no view currently? They have a view of a building?
Right. They have views of other development in the area. They don't have any existing long-range scenic views that would be obstructed by this new development. Geology and soils. This isn't near an active earthquake fault. Certainly will be subject to ground shaking. Talk about that in a minute. Geology and soils report found there were no adverse soils conditions that couldn't be taken care of with standard design measures. Hydrology and water quality. No significant impacts to surface or groundwater amounts. No substantial impact in terms of change of drainage patterns in this neighborhood. Site's not in any defined flood areas. Traffic. Traffic study addresses 6 intersections. This study was done under the direction of your traffic staff here at the city. 6 intersections were looked at Elk, Colorado, on San Fernando Road, on Pacific, and at the I-5 connectors. The net new trips from this project, when you look at the increase above the existing uses in the AM and PM peak hours, which is where you look at the impacts, are under 100. There'll be 90 additional trips during the AM peak and 94 in the PM peak. With that kind of an increase, you don't end up with a significant impact in any of the 6 intersections studied. Parking supplied and locations adequate. Circulation and access patterns were also looked at in the traffic study, and those won't create any new traffic hazards.
Your peak hours are between what time to what time?
I'll have to look it up in the study myself. Maybe Mr. Mitchell knows off the top of his head. I don't. 7 to 9 and 4 to 6. Air quality, we look at the emissions during construction of the project and with occupancy and use afterwards. Do that according to the South Coast Air Quality Management District. Quantified significance thresholds they have. The increase in emissions is not significant. It will result from construction or occupancy of the project. Cultural resources, on the northern site, the buildings that are there, it's actually kind of a conglomeration, a progression of buildings. Started out in 1941, went up through 1972. The historic resource evaluation determined that the buildings that have now been kind of combined up on that site are not a historic resource. Public services looks at police, fire, EMS, and the library. The increase in demand from the project on police services not significant. The impact on library services was also not significant. Noise, we looked at roadway noise both on the project and the increase in roadway noise from the traffic from this project. Neither of those impacts was found to be significant. Second category identified in the IR are those impacts that are significant, but which there are mitigation measures included that will mitigate those to less than significant levels. Typical ones. Good, my time's up.
Continue.
Good try.
I'm looking at the yawn factor to see how much more time I have before.
Talk about the positive. You've said what's negative.
You know, that's an interesting point, Mayor Weaver, because when you look at EIRs, that's what they're supposed to do, identify significant impacts. So they actually don't tend to be books about happy things, but they're there to help you avoid the bad things.
Tell us about the significant impacts that are unavoidable.
Right. Well, real briefly, the significant impacts can be mitigated. Any subsurface archaeological, paleontological standard measures, get rid of that. You have some older buildings with older building materials, one underground storage tank, that can all be mitigated. Standard application of rules and regulations take care of any potential water quality impacts. Cumulative impacts on your police services and project cumulative impacts on fire or police taken care of by adding resources during your annual review process and your budget. Schools, they pay the school impact fees. Ground shaking, you build according to the building code, the GEO report recommendations, that take care of those. The unavoidable impacts, we have, in one case, kind of a paper impact, which is right now, you look at the increase in population from this project, all the other related projects in Glendale. City has crept up above the current population projections the regional planning agencies have for the city. Then again, those projections are being updated right now, so that's kind of a paper planning impact that goes away with update of the projections. Even with all the measures included in the yard, obviously there's some temporary impacts from construction, noise and vibration on neighbors that can't be fully avoided. And as Mr. Lansfame mentioned earlier, in terms of recreation and park, the city has a little less parkland than your current park planning standard calls for. This project will add residents that will increased use on their parks. So for that reason, that is identified as unavoidable significant impacts. So those are the only three unavoidable impacts.
Is it being mitigated?
That impact is identified in this ER as unavoidable. I guess the mitigation would be the adoption of the fee the city's considering at this point.
There is no lump sum fee?
No, there's no overall city fee program in place
Did you
now.
figure out what the amount is that is needed?
I believe that amount was mentioned earlier. It had been...
No, in the EIR.
No.
What did you calculate the amount of square footage is required that this needs to be mitigated?
Oh, I'll have to look that up for you. It's the city's park planning standards per 1,000 population.
Okay.
So
you
Mr.
have...
Chair, if I could
Yes.
interject here as well, members of the agency, one of the issues here that we've been grappling with as we discuss the impact fees for parks and recreation libraries is that our planning standard requires such a high amount of square footage of active recreation space, and the total maximum fees that were calculated in the impact fee report were in the neighborhood of $15,000 or so per unit, and that is the fair share of full mitigation of impacts on recreation. CEQA is not an authorizing statute for purposes of adopting the fees, so short of there being an adopted full impact for full fair share, there isn't a feasible mitigation measure at this time, so it's a significant and unavoidable impact and for this project at this point in time.
Well, I understand they are providing certain amount of recreation facilities on the site. So what I wanted to know is what is the calculated recreation facility needed for this type of project?
Yes.
And you know, you have a pool, you have exercise room, you have some of these other stuff. So you have also other facilities there. So what I wanted to know, how many square feet are we talking about that they're short? Or what they need. I mean, I know what generally we figure its current use is about, for every 1,000 is 1.4 acres or 1.3 acres per 1,000. This is what we have now, not what our general plan says. Our general plan says 6 acre. I'm not even counting that.
Right.
I'm counting what we have now. So I'm figuring out on those bases, if it's 1.4, how many people are going to live in here? 200 units. If there are 2 people,
You're right there. It's about 400.
So 400 people are living in this here. If it's per 1,000, so we're talking about maybe
a little under half an acre for
less than
neighborhood.
a half an acre. That's what we're looking at.
And what really the ER also talks about is, you mentioned, Councilman Yousefian, there's a couple of categories. The project certainly includes a lot of recreational amenities for its residents, and one that seems suited towards the type of residents that are going to be in these size units.
Correct.
You know, not families. But nonetheless, while all the on-site amenities are, there's still going to be some increase in use in the nearby city parks, and that's the impact that's identified in the EIR. And you're right, based on 400 out of 1,000 in the city's park planning standard of about an acre of neighborhood park land for every 1,000, you're a little under half an acre.
Yeah. And most of these people would probably, the only thing they're going to use from the city is going to, if they go to play tennis or racquetball.
Exactly.
That's the kind of people you're going to attract. So they're not going to be out there playing baseball. Well, some will.
If they join a league in those
If they join a league, or
yeah, right.
they're soccer players. You know,
There's actually a baseball diamond right around the corner at
Right.
Pacific Park.
Pacific Park, right. So those are the 3 unavoidable impacts identified in the EIR, the Statement of Override
And
Consideration.
the traffic is avoidable? I mean, mitigated?
Is not significant, actually.
But it's mitigated because there is a street widening.
Yes, there are street improvements included with the project. The final ER is so thin because the city and the agency circulated the CRs required by CEQA and got no letters with any comments from another public agency on the content of the ER.
Could you say that again? Louder?
No comments from any public agency on the information and conclusions in
Thank
the
you.
EIR.
Because after the minute this project starts being built, this room will fill out with people saying that, how dare we do this thing without an EIR, and none of them said a word, okay? So,
Yeah, there was a letter from Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, saying, thank you, it's not a reasonably significant project, we have no comments. And one from your housing department just reminded the developer about your in lieu fee program.
and no private entities came forward either?
No.
Individuals?
None.
None, okay.
And then we also included a little update analysis, since there was minor revisions to the size of the project, since the draft EIR, there's update analysis in there showing, as you would anticipate, when you reduce the number of units by 4 and take a floor off the building, you don't have more impacts, you have less. So that's simply documented in the final EIR in order to comply with CEQA.
Just to point out, Alliance has had a representative at least one, if not more, of our meetings on impact fees. Given the timing of this, we'd anticipate, presuming council approval, the impact fee and the pipeline fee would be applicable to this project prior to pulling building permits.
And that's an overview of this. One of the team members said what was exciting about this EIR is that it's not exciting.
That's good.
Okay. Any other comments? Public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the council? Agency. Mr. Weaver.
Well, it's another entrance to Glendale is going to start getting improved. We're doing it with Cerritos Park over on Brand. There's another entrance in. And, this is not exactly an upscale area of town. And for the investment you're putting in order to eventually convert it to condos and sell, you are going to put a lot of quality into it. You have no choice, or they're not going to be marketable for the profit you want to make. So the open areas like you're describing all around, when the people come in there, are going to say, wow, here's this in the middle of this area. We want to live here. To be able to fight the freeway traffic, come into Glendale, pull into the driveway immediately, that isn't going to be half bad. If we can ever get our act together here and put a shuttle service that goes from there down to the town center, I know where you're going to go in the evening after you pull in. So I think it's a great start down that area. We have another project on Elk that's coming down the pike. It's going to turn the whole area around, so I'm very happy with it, and I trust the developer and the architects, the landscape, whatever. They'll do what they need to do to make this a great place to live. So whenever you want a motion, I'll make it.
Mr. Quintero.
I'm very pleased with the project. Let me start by saying that I guess it was last weekend that I came down north on the 5, got off at Colorado and went into I drive a sports car, and believe me, they can make that turn. All the BMWs in town are going to make
the way you drive it.
I just can't remember if it was bumpy or not. I think it was, or at least Elk, I believe, was. But anyway, and I'm very familiar with that building. I used to go in there on a regular basis years ago. This is a tremendous improvement. I think you've done a wonderful job. The architect has done a great job. The landscape architect, I think, is also doing a very good job. And when this is done, it's going to be a boost for that part of the city, for that section of the city. So I'm very much looking forward to the building phase. Hopefully you'll build it quickly, the market will turn, and you'll convert to condominiums. But if it becomes market rate rentals, that's fine with me. We need that type of housing available to the residents of Glendale. So either way, I think it's a great project, and I'm looking forward to its early tear down of that old building and early completion. So congratulations to you.
I had somebody can just shake their heads up and down or side to side. I'm assuming that all the windows are dual glazed for energy purposes.
In all likelihood, to qualify for Title 24.
Okay. And does it meet any kind of a LEED requirements?
Wait. Now you're starting to talk too much.
I'll reopen it. Come on. Just a quick answer. Would it at least be silver?
The quick answer is, in all likelihood, will not be LEED certified. We are striving with all of our projects to conform with LEED. Well, let me put it this way: there are points available to qualify for LEED certification, And some of those points include the fact that we're adaptively reusing existing urban land into a new and long-term use. But short answer is we will strive where we can to include sustainable design.
As Mr. Weaver was talking about, you have a lot of roof space, and this is a new project. In the city of Glendale, we do have opportunities for people to put solar panels on top to generate electricity. You have a pool, you have a lot of common amenities, you're going to need a lot of electricity. It would behoove you to talk to GWP to see what opportunities exist to do that. We are encouraging all big building owners to move in that direction to create some resources in creating their own energy and try to be a little bit more green, build more green buildings.
We will certainly be considering that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, since you reopened, do you want to reclose?
I am reclosing that. All right, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Move 6A 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second. As for myself, I'm going to vote for these. I think the certifying of the EIR, had some questions, it has been answered. As far as the project is concerned, my understanding is that they will be papering it for a condominium project later on down the road, so in case they decide to sell. I'm a great fan of building apartments. I made that very clear in the community, and I told this to the builders, too. The only reason I'm voting for this is because, for myself, is because you are going to convert this somewhere down the line. And I like to create more home ownership opportunities in this city. So as economy changes and shifts, you already have it papered. It'll be easy to just file and move in that direction. And please do put decent windows, because if you're going to own them for a while, you're going to be sorry if you didn't. I don't have to tell you. You've been there, done that. Okay. Roll call.
Agency members Manukian, Najarian, Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Chairman Yusefian.
Aye. What's next, please?
Is there any agency member or staff comments or new business?
Move we
Hearing
adjourn.
none. The second?
Second.
We're adjourned.